The Reds' biggest inconsistency so far this season became its strength on Tuesday.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are a Locked On Reds with myself, Jeff Carr. I am a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan that has turned an addiction to this team into information for you. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to me talk some Reds with you. I encourage you, if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, hit me up on X at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. And if you're watching here on YouTube, thank you so much for doing so. Jump down in our comment section and type any old thing. Helps the algorithm, helps people find the show. And for our everydayers out there, thank you so much for being an everydayer. You are what makes this show go. And if you're not an everydayer, subscribe on your favorite podcast app and right here on YouTube and click that bell to get notified whenever we've got new content for you, because we are with you every single day. Because Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every day, win or lose, all throughout the season, all throughout the offseason. We're talking Reds every day, Monday through Friday. And on today's show, we're going to look at Nick Lodolo and why he is the top reason to have hope in the Reds starting rotation. David Bell made a beautiful choice that really helped lead to the win, but the lineup leads off the day. Before we get to all of that, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. All right, coming into Tuesday, probably the most inconsistent part about the Reds team was their lineup, and the Reds got another good performance from it, something that they've really kind of hopes, turns into a thing they can count on. There's a lot of talent in this Reds lineup, and of course they've had their issues. Jonathan India and Jake Fraley out of the lineup again due to illness, and we've talked about TJ Friedl. He is hopefully starting a rehab assignment here soon. Maybe get him back earlier than expected. It'll still be at the end of May, but earlier than expected. Noel Marte probably end of June, and Matt McLain at, hopefully August, maybe September, who knows. But there's still plenty of talent. It just feels like it's been all Elly De La Cruz and not a lot else. But a lot else stepped up on Tuesday. Let's start with that, because in the game, obviously the Reds just scored at will. They win 8-1 over the Philadelphia Phillies day after they get shut out 7-0. So, hey, give it right back to them. Run differential right there. 8-8. There you go. What is that aggregate that soccer teams use or whatever? Anyway, the Reds get back even in the series. There's 2 more games left. Reds now have a shot to win this series with some good pitching coming up. But I loved what happened on Tuesday, and it started with Christian Encarnacion-Strand, the much maligned Christian Encarnacion-Strand. In fact, there were comments, there were folks on Twitter that were just like, Jeff, Steve, when are you going to talk about how bad CES has been? And we've said it, actually, on an earlier podcast last week, where we thought his struggles are a bummer right now, but he's going to break out of them. There are underlying signs. He's still hitting the ball relatively hard, good quality of contact. He's just got unlucky with the BABIP. And he showed why last night. He went 3 for 4. He had a double. He had 2 RBI. And really, the one out that he made, it was actually the hardest hit ball he had on the night. But that's just baseball, baby. He hit the hardest hit ball he had right at the third baseman, and it found his glove. That could have been another double had, the third baseman been standing like a foot to this side. And then Santiago Espinal joined the multi-hit parade. He went 3 for 4. He had a solo home run, and he had another RBI on a single. Great night for Santiago Espinal. Yeah, that guy. Remember that guy? That guy that you were just like, oh my gosh, why aren't the Reds cutting this guy? He can't hit the broadside of a barn. He did on Tuesday night. He's the kind of guy too, and I'm not going to stand on a table for him, but he came to the Reds via trade. The Reds sent a minor league pitcher, Chris McIlvain, to the Blue Jays for Santiago Espinal, and he was kind of like the guy at the time, right? Like you're just hoping that he steps up a little bit. If he continues to do stuff now that he has finally broken out a little bit this year, that could be a huge find for the Reds. And then, of course, Elly De La Cruz continues his hot streak. He's 1 for 3. He had a 2-run bomb, 109 miles an hour off the bat. He also had a walk. He also had a steal and 2 runs scored. He extended his lead in the majors with that steal up to 12 steals and still second in home runs in the major leagues now with 7 home runs. And it's great to see that the rest of the lineup could help out a little bit in this game because it's been Elly who's been carrying it. It was Elly and Steer for a little bit. Steer's fallen off. He's hit into a slump. I don't think it has anything to do with being moved up in the order. That's just coincidence. It's just he was really, really hot to start the season, and he's cooled off a little bit because he is a solid hitter. He is not the, Herculean hitter. I've said it before. I'll say it again, and I know Steve hates it when I say it, but I'm going to say it again. He's the mashed potatoes of this lineup. And the mashed potatoes are never the point where that's the star of the dish. That's what holds the dish together. Spencer Steer holds this lineup together, but he's not the star. Elly's been the star. Elly has 28%. Let's look at this real quick. 28% of the team's home runs so far this year. That's going to change, but as of right now, that shows how he's just carried this lineup, and he has scored 18%. One player, Elly, has scored 18% of the team's runs. Again, these things are going to change because this Reds team is better than this. They are not a one player and we just hope everybody else does something type lineup. They are a loaded lineup. It's just most of the guys who are part of the group of, players that make it loaded haven't gone. The Reds are 16th in Major League Baseball in on-base plus slugging. They're 20th in on-base percentage. This team flourishes with getting them on, getting them over, getting them in. Well, if you ain't getting them on, there's nobody to get over, and there's even less to get in. So you got to get them on. They haven't been doing that so far this year. That's something that's got to kind of improve, and that's where the consistency has been the biggest issue, is that if nobody's on base, it doesn't matter when you've got that good 2-out hit. Because if you get a good 2-out hit, and that's the first guy on base in that inning, that's what we saw in Seattle. That's why they lost in Seattle. They just didn't have anybody on base. And then they're 25th in team batting average, although I will point out they've been unlucky in that department. They are 22nd in batting average on balls in play. I say all this to say that. I say numbers and all this other stuff, and you're just like, Jeff, you're filling my head with numbers here. What's the big point? The big point is that the lineup, this thing that I looked at this and I said the Reds need to score at least 4 runs to feel good about a win on any given day. And this lineup's not doing that on a consistent basis. Sure, they're top 10 in Major League Baseball in runs scored. They've scored 120 runs. But they have these days, like they had on Tuesday, where they score 8. They had those days, although it was the first shutout of the season. But they do like, okay, we'll score 8 runs in this day. We'll score 1 run the next day. 8 runs or 9 runs or 10 runs in the next day. Let's even this out a little bit, right? Let's make this a little bit more consistent, because if you add some help to Elly, that's where we get this team that is going to be a juggernaut. That's where we get this team that is going to be a hard out for anybody that plays them. And I don't care about the pitcher who's facing this team, because when they're right, when the roster is right, left-handed or right-handed, they can play with anybody. But that's why they've struggled so much with left-handed pitching. By the way, buried the lead on that one. Left-handed pitcher for the Phillies. Didn't even put that on my notes. But hey, left-handed pitcher for the Phillies, Reds still scored at will. Ran him out of the ball. In fact, he was in the ball game less than Andrew Abbott was, and Andrew Abbott kind of had a rough night. In fact, speaking of Andrew Abbott, he's going to be the subject coming up here in just a minute, because as much as the hitting led to a win, so did a great decision by David Bell. I'll tell you what that is coming up next. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, and the scoreboard's not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out the win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress with your buddies. There's so much to do. You can play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. You can make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can charge other players rent for your iconic properties, and so much more. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb that leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go free on the App Store and the Google Play Store. Also, with baseball season rolling along, you want to get in on Prize Picks. They're the #1 fantasy sports app for a reason, because it's so easy to get in the game. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. You can get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, and you can win a ton of cash with as little as just 4 picks. We're talking 100 times your money. You can turn $10 into 1,000. You can put together lists that include things like Nick Lodolo strikeouts, Elly De La Cruz steals, Spencer Steer RBIs, and so much more. In fact, at this point, I just find whatever stat Elly's got and click more. There you go. That's what you need to do. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy. If you're looking for a rational, conversational, and ultimately just pleasurable experience when it comes to your sports information, look no further than Locked On Sports Today. There's a 24/7 streaming channel for free on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today 24/7 brings you all of the big sports stories in a very relaxed environment. We do without all the screaming. There's nobody shouting at you, anything like that. Check out Locked On Sports Today 24/7 and subscribe to it on YouTube, and check it out on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team, every day. And coming up on the next Locked On Reds podcast, I want to take a look at the Reds farm system. Who is showing up? Who's showing out? We're going to take a look around the system as we are nearing the end of the first month of minor league baseball's season. But let's get back to Tuesday night, because the lineup was huge. Scoring 8 runs is always a good thing, and obviously a big reason as to why you win, but probably just as big of a reason, I mean, maybe it's like 60-40, 55-45. 55-45, David Bell's great decision. Because we have been critical of David Bell. Steve and myself have been critical. By the way, Steve will return here later on in the week. His work schedule is kind of conflicting with our recording schedule, so it's just going to be me today and tomorrow for you. But anyway, we've been critical about David Bell sticking with a pitcher for too long, whether it be a relief pitcher, a starting pitcher, whatever. It feels like he's let some guys try to work through it, and they ain't worked through it, and they've actually blew it, and things have got worse. He didn't do that on Tuesday. In fact, Andrew Abbott only pitched 4 1/3 innings on the box score, and it was survival pitching, man. This was not good, Andrew Abbott, but it was limit the damage. I mean, obviously, he kept the scoreboard clean for 4 1/3, but he didn't keep the base paths clean. He had 4 walks. He gave up a couple of hits. He gave up a lot of hard contact. He did have 3 strikeouts, but ultimately he was throwing a lot of pitches. Just didn't quite look like that crisp Andrew Abbott self that we're used to. Andrew Abbott is a guy that we can debate as being one of the guys who could be the ace of this staff. He didn't pitch like an ace on Tuesday night, though, because in the fifth inning, the Reds were up 4-0, but Abbott had walked the bases loaded without recording an out in the top of the fifth inning. So he's standing all the ducks are on the pond, got nowhere to put him, and Kyle Schwarber's at the plate. Now, to his credit, he struck out Kyle Schwarber. But David Bell knew that is where he had to cut bait. He got Schwarber out of there, and he's like, all right, we're going to the pen. Thank you. Thank you, because he brought in, and I don't even know that it's as much of a debate as I have been saying that this bullpen runs through Alexis Diaz. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think this bullpen runs through Fernando Cruz. Fernando Cruz was clutch on Tuesday night because with the bases loaded and only one out, David Bell calls on Cruz. And what does he do? He does what Cruz always does. Splitter for a strikeout. He did get a line. It was kind of a hard contact type line out deal to left field, but it was an out. And he got out of the inning unscathed. All three guys who got walked onto the base paths stayed right where they were. They never moved. And that is fantastic pitching. Plus, David Bell doubled down on that decision by not bringing Fernando Cruz back out for the next inning. That's something that he tends to want to do a lot. And I was glad that he didn't do it here. Like he figured out exactly the point that a pitcher was most useful, and he didn't push him past that. He didn't wait it out. David Bell played this game perfectly with the way that he used the bullpen. And by the way, just a note on this, because we got some friends over at RedsContentPlus.com that do a lot of great writing about the Reds, a lot of great analytical writing when it comes to the different players and performances and things like that. They wrote a great piece about Fernando Cruz and the fact that he has the best pitch in baseball. I'll put that up against anybody. And here's why. The splitter that Fernando Cruz throws, he hasn't allowed a hit yet on. None. And he throws it more than he throws any other pitch. He throws a splitter, he throws a fastball, and he throws a changeup. And he throws that splitter over 50% of the time. And it's nasty. No hits whatsoever. He gets a swing and a miss 75% of the time. You heard me. If he throws 4 splitters, a hitter swings and misses 3 times. That's a strikeout. just in case you didn't know. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. Boom. Got it. Nobody's hit it yet. He has 17 strikeouts with this one pitch alone. Fernando Cruz is a clutch relief pitcher, but David Bell, knowing that he has the best pitch in baseball, looking at the bases loaded in the 5th inning, Reds up by 4, but one swing of the bat ties it. Let me get the best pitch in baseball in here and shut this down right now. Beautiful decision-making by David Bell and beautiful execution by Fernando Cruz because, sure, his split finger could have been off by just an inch and, somebody could have sent it flying. But the thing of this was Fernando Cruz did not come in and face the bottom of the Phillies lineup, which, by the way, the Phillies lineup is coming into this game was hotter than the surface of the sun anyway. So it's not as if we're talking about, automatic outs here. The first guy he faced was Trey Turner, who was widely regarded as the best shortstop in baseball. Widely regarded as one of the best and most consistent bats in baseball. Fernando Cruz said, "Welcome to the split finger show." That was a beautiful, beautiful at bat, and it set the tone. The top of the 5th, and really the 5th inning as a whole, because so they get out of this jam, Reds come back in the bottom of the 5th, and they score 2 more, thanks to Elly's home run. That won the game. The game was over at that point. The Phillies couldn't do anything after that. It was 7-0 going into the 6th inning. They had their best shot to get any runs in the 5th, and they were denied because of Fernando Cruz and because of David Bell working the bullpen to perfection. Coming up tonight, Nick Lodolo's on the mound, and he has proven that he is the best reason to be excited about the Reds rotation. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for Mom with DoorDash. You can surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Plus, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order now on DoorDash. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Who doesn't love a good latte? You can get a gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You can't go wrong. Plus, you get the convenience of shopping on your phone. So you don't have to be that guy or that gal, scrambling around trying to find whatever stores happen to be open that might have something that she could possibly like. Trust me, I've been there. Sorry, Mom, it was a long time ago. Anyway, order now using the code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get 50% off your next order on DoorDash so you can get her everything she needs for Mother's Day. Again, that's 50% off with the code LOCKEDONMLB, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flour, convenience, grocery, or retail order. Again, code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, bookmark si.com/MLB/Reds for written content. More content about your Cincinnati Reds every single day. I'm writing there. Caleb Sisk is writing there. Steve's writing there. James Rapine. Lots of great Reds content over there at si.com/MLB/Reds. All right, tonight, we've got Nick Lodolo on the mound. Tonight's Bark in the Park, by the way. First Bark in the Park of the season. Very excited about that. Taking my puppy down there. It's going to be my first experience. I think I've been to a Bark in the Park, but I've never had a dog to bring to Bark in the Park. So I'm very excited. Bring my 6-month-old puppy, Lainey. She's going to have a lot of fun. She's ready for it. It's going to be a lot of fun getting to take my puppy down to the ballpark. But here at Bark in the Park, we got Nick Lodolo pitching on the mound, and his first 2 starts have just inspired so much hope in the Reds rotation for me. And I know that we always say, small sample size, don't go too crazy, whether it's, bad or good. 12 innings is all he's thrown. So it's like, what do we really know? Right? But I know this. He started off last year super rough because he was pitching through an injury. He is healthy this year. 100%. No worries whatsoever for what Nick Lodolo has gone through last year. I mean, think about last year. We constantly heard different times, he's coming back. He's going to start a rehab assignment. He's going to start throwing. He's going to be back in August. Oh, no, he's going to be back at the end of August. No, he's going to be back in September. We even heard during the offseason, if the Reds had made the playoffs, Nick Lodolo would have been there. Whether or not I believe that, I don't know. But I believe that he's healthy now. And he is pitching absolutely lights out. I mean, he can be this team's stopper. And I think we talk about who's the ace a lot, right? We did that with Frankie Montas after his hot start, and he's cooled off since. We talk a lot about Hunter Green potentially being the ace one day. Isn't there yet? Is Andrew Abbott the ace? Is Graham Ashcraft the ace? Is Nick Lodolo the ace? You know what I want? Stoppers. Because ace denotes that somebody else isn't good enough. A stopper is a guy that every 5th day, when he touches the mound, whatever's going on, he's going to right the ship. If there's a winning streak, he's going to keep it going. If there's a losing streak, he's going to stop it. That's why they call them stoppers. Nick Lodolo is a stopper. He's got a couple of stats, and again, 12 innings, not going to go too crazy on, some of the, ERA and all that other stuff. That's going to even out a little bit. And walks plus hits per innings pitched, whip, things like that. That's going to even out a little bit. But in his first 12 innings, he's allowed 1 barrel. 1. What do we say all the time when it comes to pitching? It's like, missing bats is nice, missing barrels is better. He's only allowed 1 in 12 innings. You keep that rate up, you're going to be pretty good the entire year, not just, your first 2 starts. He has walked 2.2% of the batters that he's faced. That's it. And you talk about a guy whose bread and butter is a back foot breaking ball, something that I really don't think, and I haven't stood into the batter's box to know this, but just watching it on television, I don't know how, especially, back foot breaker to a right-handed hitter, coming from his left hand. I don't know how a hitter stands into the box, watches that pitch, and has any clue that it could possibly hit his shoe. Just the way that he delivers it from his hand, the way that it spins, the way that it starts out, that thing darts across the zone. That's why you see so many guys swinging through it and looking silly. He has... We talked about, swing and miss with Fernando Cruz's splitter. In the first 12 innings of this season, and in all the curveballs that Nick Lodolo has thrown, 50% swing and miss rate on that pitch. That's pretty good. He's got some great stuff, man. And he has a ground ball rate that I love. 48%, right there close to 50. That's in the sweet spot. Somewhere between like 47 and higher. That's good stuff. That's where Nick Lodolo is. And although the average exit velocity and things like that, that's a little bit high, but that's splitting hairs. He's missing bats so well. He's missing barrels so well. And the fact that he is not walking guys cannot be overstated. If he even just comes up just a little bit, we're still talking about one of the best walk rates that the Reds have ever seen. That he is doing some amazing things in these first 12 innings. He's got stuff, man. He's got the stuff to be an ace, but I want him to be a stopper. I want him to be the guy that every fifth day. The Reds, we had that. Reds fans had that with Luis Castillo. And there was even that point in 2021 where people were starting to worry that he might, stop being that guy, but he got that back. But they had it with Luis Castillo. Then you have to go back to Johnny Cueto. And there were a couple of stoppers in that rotation, especially in 2012. The rotation was a stopper. They had a fantastic starting rotation. If the Reds could have anything close to that in the future, Nick Lodolo is going to be one of these guys. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he continues to pitch. The thing of 2023 was the fact that he was pitching through injuries. And there's so many people that looked at that and they said, okay, dealing with injury all year long, is he ever going to be healthy? Or, seeing the performances that he had in the 7 games that he did pitch being very, they were bad. Let's put it that way. It was bad performance by Nick Lodolo in those 7 games that he pitched while he was hurt. So people got this thought in their mind that he wasn't good. In 2022, he made 19 starts and he had a 3.6 ERA. That's good. And his first 12 innings, to me, feel like a continuation of 2022 and not 2023. I think that 2023 will be an outlier and that Nick Lodolo is going to be the dude at the top of this rotation. I know that, Steve and I have had discussions in the past where I thought it'd be Hunter Green, and maybe he can still get there. But Nick Lodolo has just shown so much in his limited time. Again, he hadn't even thrown 150 innings in the major leagues just yet. So he could change into something else. But his profile and how he's throwing his fastball has been pretty good so far this year too. But he uses the fastball to set up his curve so well that I think that Nick Lodolo is going to be one heck of a pitcher for this team, and he is the biggest reason to be excited about the starting rotation. And that's where we'll leave it for today. Thank you so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. Make sure that you are an everydayer. I love getting to hear from the everydayers down in the chat. And if you are an everydayer, or if you just checked out the show and you see me down at the ballpark, say hi. I love talking to folks about Reds baseball. I love talking to folks about anything. Tell you about a good food wreck or something like that at the ballpark. Maybe even let you meet the puppy if you're down there for Bark in the Park on Wednesday night. I'm also going to be down there on Thursday afternoon as well, watching some Reds baseball as they play these Phillies and hopefully get a series dub. But until then, you can trust we're going to be Locked On Reds every single day.